Too much is never enough. You probably heard it, or maybe even said it yourself. If I just had a little more, then I'd finally be set. A little more money in the bank, a little more time in the day, a little more freedom in the schedule. But notice how slippery that word more is. It never stays put. More tends to move the goalpost. The raise we thought would fix everything gets swallowed up by new bills. The free time we longed for gets filled with new distractions. And that's the catch. The reason more always runs out is because once we get more, we convince ourselves we can do more, which only leads to us needing more again. It never ends. That's why they call it the rat race. You just got to keep going. St. Paul cuts right through that illusion in today's first reading. He tells St. Timothy, religion with contentment is a great gain. Holiness is not about chasing more. It's about learning to be content with enough. If we have food and clothing, Paul says that is enough. Everything else is a gift. Because everything else in this life we leave behind anyway. We brought nothing into the world, we leave with nothing. Paul doesn't call money itself evil. And some people get that phrase wrong. They'll say money is the root of all evil. But Paul said, no, money in itself is a good. We can exchange it for goods and services. He says the love of money is the root of all evil. The desire for filthy lucre, as he calls it. That's the root of so many evils. When our hearts cling to wealth and possessions or status, when we start to believe that that is where our security lies, that's when the soul begins to fester. He puts it bluntly. Those chasing riches have pierced themselves with many pains. They trade communion with God for competition with others. They trade peace for anxiety. They trade the simplicity of faith for endless ladder climbing. Now look at the gospel. St. Luke shows us Jesus on the move. He's proclaiming the kingdom from town to town, and who's with him? Not only the 12, but also the women who had been healed. Mary Magdalene, Joanna, Susanna, and many others. These were women of means. They had capital. And what do they do with it? Well, they take their resources and use those resources for his mission. They don't cling, they don't hoard, they steward what they have for the kingdom. And why? Because they themselves have been healed by him. They've received much from Jesus, so they return much to him also. See the difference. The more of this world says, hold tight, protect yourself, and climb higher. While the mercy of Jesus says, be content, be free, pour out your life for the kingdom. And that's the invitation today, to ask ourselves some practical questions. What does contentment look like in my budget? Do I really need all the extras I think I do? What does contentment look like in my calendar? Am I always overscheduled, chasing more, trying to be more for others? Or do I intentionally make room for prayer, family, and rest? What does contentment look like on my screens? Am I endlessly scrolling, consuming, comparing? Or am I grateful for the life God has given me? Paul tells Timothy what to pursue instead. Righteousness, devotion, faith, love, patience, and gentleness. That's our real treasure. That's the inheritance worth striving for. So here's one concrete step each of us can make today to multiply the treasures of heaven. Pick a single category of your spending. Maybe coffee runs, streaming services, or dining out, and redirect just a portion of it towards the gospel. Help the poor, support parish outreach, contribute to a missionary effort or a corporal work of mercy. That's exactly what Mary Magdalene, Joanna, and Susanna did. They gave of their means so that Jesus could be proclaimed. God multiplied their offering. He'll do the same for us. And it all leads here, to the altar of God. We bring nothing in our hands when we come up for Holy Communion. In the offering, we bring simple bread and wine, the fruit of our humble offerings. And what does Jesus give us in return? His very body and blood. The Eucharist is the school of contentment. It's how we learn to be happy with the things of God. If He is enough here, then He will be enough everywhere in our lives. So the question remains, one simple but searching question. Is Jesus enough for me? Or am I still chasing more?